Welcome, crypto enthusiasts, to the Independent Reserve Podcast.
Actually, you know what? Anyway, let's just do it. Okay, episode 17, Independent Reserve Podcast. Alyse, been a long time coming. Just because you're everywhere in crypto, if anyone hasn't seen your face somewhere around on LinkedIn or something, they're not really looking that hard.
I'm
because
flattered.
I don't think I've been to an event that anything in crypto that you've not either been to or part of or presenting or doing something somehow involved with it. How do you find the time? Because like you must be everywhere all the time. How do you do that?
I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none. So if you ask me deep technical questions, I'm like, I don't know.
But you're a software engineer?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I started as a software engineer about 6 years ago. Oh, actually, back in 2018. So I did actually go and study a business degree, but then I ended up being a software dev. So it was actually when I was doing startups, I realized that I had a huge technical gap where I really relied on my co-founder and also like other technical people to tell me if something was possible to be done within, a year or 6 months. Whereas I realized they were just telling me bullshit, that you could actually deliver something within 3 months. So I only discovered that when I became a software engineer myself. So that's why I went back and became a dev. But now the tables have turned where I don't want to be doing any development because development has changed because everyone's using Cursor and Copilot. So you technically shouldn't be doing any development, maybe just like the last mile, the 20% where you need to do the QA.
So you're just doing all the fun stuff. So you're attending conferences. You telling me just minutes ago you were in Singapore recently. I'm pretty sure I saw you in Singapore. I'm pretty sure I saw you in Singapore last year as well. Every crypto event, like if you're not there, it's basically not a crypto event. So you're doing all the fun stuff now, and of course every panel under the sun. So you're well covered.
Well, I just came back from network school. So what network school is about is, I guess it's the culmination of biology's vision. So have you read the Network State book?
You're going to have to explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay. So it's very much based on crypto, the ability to launch a token and create a digital economy or a digital community. And usually you'll gather in Discord or Telegram and you'll create these pockets of people that are aligned in vision or some objective or goal, whatever it may be. So for example, Transhuman Coin, we launched that to align people around transhumanism and as a way to say that I hold this token, therefore I'm a member of the transhuman movement. Then, so biology writes about this the ability of launching a token like Bitcoin or Ethereum and creating these economies that can rival those of a small nation. And eventually you want to take that into a physical space. So usually crowdfund the ability to acquire physical land. So you have a physical location that you can all gather in. So that's what he's done by taking his theory that he wrote in that book and then he created Network School as a way to realize that vision. I think he probably wanted to call it network state, but it's a bit sensitive because like which country is going to allow you to come in and just acquire land and say I'm succeeding from your nation. So so what I heard is they on the first day of network school they wanted to plant the flag down, but then they realized that's a bit sensitive. So what they did is they just lay the flag down on the beach and then there's a really good aerial shot of it. Which hopefully they release it because so actually I can provide a lot of the videos and some pictures so people know what network school is about.
Okay. So this is obviously an important topic for you. Can I ask, is the idea of the network state, I mean, at least in the crypto sense, maybe more of a metaphysical, like is that the kind of thing where people can be part of a community that's not actually necessarily located anywhere, or does it need to be in a physical location?
Eventually you do want to be in a physical location because we're still humans, I guess, with physical bodies. But the idea is that as long as there is a way for people to connect online in a digital way, then you already have a community. And I think biology recognizes that not everybody can be in the same physical location all at once. So how he's done it is he's got a Discord channel where all the members can talk and share ideas, and then he's also got the network school, which is it's a physical thing. So it's located in Forest City. I think I can say it because I think Wired or some other publication covered it. There was a bit of a leak. Apparently they tricked the people who work there into talking about network school, but it's off this island in Malaysia, so it's just off the coast of Singapore. Literally you can just go to Singapore via car, which takes about an hour to an hour and a half, cross the border, and you go into Forest City, which is this artificial man-made island, and you're in network school. So this only started around September, I think, after the Network State Conference. So
September last year?
This year.
This year.
So it's literally like Token 2049. Then there was the Don't Die movement by Brian Johnson. And then I think there was like, heaps of side events. And then it ended the week with the Network State Conference. And then following that, everybody from cohort 1 went over to Forest City for Network School. So Network School is selective. You have to, like, if anyone wants to be part of it, you can just go and apply. It's like ns.com, and then you just fill out this application, and it'll ask you a bunch of questions about what is your, I guess, philosophy on life. Are you a techno-capitalist? I think if I was going to summarize what network school is it's a bunch of techno-capitalists.
Okay. All right. We're going to have to start a little bit, maybe tell us a bit, how did you first get into this? And maybe how did you find the author of the biology? How did you come across maybe their work? Sorry, him or her, I'm not sure. How did you come across their work, and what got you into it?
I have been following biology for a few years. And actually, I realized that I didn't even follow him on X, but I think his posts appeared on my feed. And it's only when I got into network school I started following him. But I have listened to a lot of his pods, and I always love the idea of being able to create a nation state just by launching a token, and first going digital, then eventually physical. So always love this idea. And I think he's been around for a long time. He was a former CTO of Coinbase as well.
Okay.
So he has a lot of really good Coinbase connections, and I can actually talk about some of the guests that he had at network school too. So then he put out a post, I think it was like on Substack, where he said that we have an island powered by Bitcoin, or through the power of Bitcoin, we have an island. And I think that's the beauty of it, where those who are early into Bitcoin were able to, if they held on to it, do really great things with it. And Balaji has been able to realize his vision through the power of accumulating Bitcoin. So in other words, I think of it as Bitcoin Island.
Bitcoin Island, here we go.
Yeah, it's going to be like one of the most friendly places for Bitcoin.
For Bitcoin.
And other crypto.
And other crypto. So talk us through it then. If I was to go to Bitcoin Island, what would it be like? Describe it to me.
I'm going to go through a day in the life of when you're at network school. So there's this framework that you live by, which is burn, earn, learn. So burn is where you attend these gym sessions. They have one on the hour from 7 to 11. So if you're really lazy like me, I go to the very last one at 11 o'clock. And it's the most popular one. Like literally.
Because everyone's...
7 o'clock is like dead. And then it's like 11 o'clock, everybody's there. I have a really fun video actually where you're just working out with everyone, and biology's in it as well. So you're lifting weights with biology. Then after that, usually it's like breakfast. So breakfast is like you're meant to eat a blueprint diet, and it's designed by Brian Johnson.
Oh yeah,
yep. Have you heard of?
Yeah, of course.
Brian?
The guy he's going to live till he's 1 million or whatever, and he's reversing the aging process through all his habits.
Yes, exactly. So he wants us to opt into his algorithm where you eat a blueprint diet and you're meant to exercise. We're not actually doing his exercises because I think it's too hard in a class format, but we are eating a blueprint diet. And so the breakfast isn't blueprint, but everything else is. So there's a lot of chicken breast. Like I'm Chinese, I don't eat chicken breast. So it's like 4 weeks of chicken breast. Like by the end of the 2 weeks, I'm like, I've had enough. Like I just need some, I don't know, I need like salt and sugar and fat. Like,
okay.
But if you've seen like Brian's diet on X, where he posts a lot of his salads, like it's very Mediterranean inspired, and he has this olive oil called snake oil. So So it's apparently really high quality olive oil. I haven't tried it because people were just like downing it, and they're like, "Oh, snake oil."
He's gone with a highly ironic nickname.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is. And then I think he actually had trouble like bringing it over because they're probably like the people at customs are probably looking at it and like snake oil, and you're bringing in like so many bottles of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to the framework. So it's like learn, burn, earn. First morning is like the burn, and then usually you'll eat like a blueprint lunch. And on the learning part is where you get to attend lectures, and then there's also quizzes. So lectures are usually on Monday and Thursdays. Monday is when Balaji gives his talk. It could be anything from the rise and fall of civilizations down to the 1,000 Heirs, which he hasn't talked about yet. He might be a little bit shy. Then on Thursdays we usually have some guest lecturers. Or guest speakers, I should say. So we've had some really good speakers. We've had Dragonfly Capital came in, and Polychain Capital. Have you heard of those guys? They're really big in
Maybe. But
like crypto VCs.
anyway.
Yeah. So then that's that's like the learn part. Plus you have quizzes based on the Monday lectures. I haven't done any quizzes, so I have no idea what they're like. And then there's the earn part where you can do bounties, like create content, and then you can earn. I'm not sure what you're earning. You're earning like probably USDC or something. And so that is like pretty much the framework of network school. I would say that I've only been really disciplined on the burn part. The best part of network school is probably the people there. So you meet a lot of people from all over the world. So you've got like the Chinese, the Indians, the Russians, Ukrainians, the Americans, a lot of Europeans. So like Norway, Sweden. I was like people that I would never have like normally met before. So I think the ability to bring people from all over the world all in one place is really fascinating, and it seems like there's a lot of alignment in the people that they brought together. So that's probably based on the application process as well. Yeah. So the application process has this initial form that you fill out, and I jokingly filled it out probably like at midnight, thinking that I'll never get in. And I think I said in my application, I'm a girl, so does that give me extra points? And then I got in. And then after that, they make you fill out a quiz. So the quiz is meant to put you on this map, I think they're making some
like
sort
a
of
personality
diagram.
one.
Yeah, based on what your political views are like, and personally, are you a techno-capitalist, a techno-optimist, or are you a decel? So then they'll ask you like
a decel.
So you're like anti-technology.
Okay.
Deceleration.
Deceleration.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
The
decel.
Sort of former incel.
I was thinking it's like an incel, but like a different kind of.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And so they asked you questions like, are you like for communist or capitalism, and Trump or Harris? Yeah, I forgot even her name, my bad. So and then they ask you a lot of like questions on what your worldview is like, because I think they want to create this group of people who are highly aligned, but not all the same, because you don't want this groupthink. So I think they've done well in terms of like creating a group of people with the same worldviews. But in terms of being able to find someone who you can collaborate with, I found that a little tougher.
Is it like is an ultimate aim with network school? Is it really just to go, hey, let's get some like-minded people together with some common interests and views, and let's just see what happens?
Yeah, I think so. I think like the vision which Balaji shared publicly is he wants to create a place where techno-capitalists can gather and potentially create these, I guess, build their family and build their company. So he wants to create a new community, a new society. And the differentiation is, I suppose, being crypto friendly and Bitcoin friendly, because even though, say, the US right now, they are welcoming Bitcoin, at some point, they're probably going to realize that it is a threat to the US dollar. So where are people going to go if people really believe in the power of Bitcoin? Then they're going to go seek out places like Bitcoin Island or maybe El Salvador. El Salvador actually could become like another network school node. So even if you only have one physical location for network school right now, in the future there could be these network school nodes that you want to build all around the world. So it's like a gateway into, say El Salvador had this node, then it's like this gateway drug into the actual network school.
Okay. And how many people are currently involved? Like, how big is this thing?
150 for the initial cohort.
150.
150 people, like members. So
150.
Yeah, 150 people for the cohort 1, and then they had like applications from. They said thousands. Like I think they even said like 10,000. Maybe I'm just like mishearing this, but out of the like maybe up to 10,000 applicants, they only accepted 150 people into the first cohort. So I think 150 was selected because it's the Dunbar number, where that's the max number of people that one person can maintain meaningful relationships with. And then the next cohort 2, which is slated to start next year, January, February sometime, is going to be 1,000 people. So then after that, it's going to be 10,000. So they want to scale up to, say, 100,000 people. At that point, it's going to rival, say, the Bay Area. I don't know, the community around Stanford. So that's I guess what Balaji and his co-founder have said is that they don't believe that the current education system serves people anymore. Before that, if you were intellectually curious and you weren't maybe served the best hand in life, then you could go and get a really great education and build a really great network around you. But now education, like going to Harvard or Stanford, is for the elites, and you can buy your way in. And a lot of these places have become very woke, and they expect you to think a certain way so that you can fit in. Whereas in the past, they felt like if you were thinking differently, then you could go there and you could seek other people who are willing to work with you to, create a new order, new type of like rule for society. So that's one of the reasons. First, they want to have a new way of learning for people, and secondly, to have a crypto-friendly place. These are like, that's probably, they could put it in their own words, but this is the takeaway, the type of what I've learned so far in the past 4 weeks.
Okay, so it's all kind of fresh and new. It's only been happening since September, so it's kind of and that's where you're spending most of your time these days. Is that?
Yeah, I just came back. I literally came back after I think like 4 or 5 weeks there.
Okay.
And then my husband Peter came to visit me, and then I think at some point I was like, I just got to go back home. Like, it's nice being there, but being away for so long, I just felt like it's really challenging because, all right, the food situation I didn't really like because I needed variety. But that kind of brings me to the point of, if you want to build a society, you need to keep people there, and you need to attract people there. And I think it's fine if you just have digital nomads or people who stay short term, but eventually you probably want to attract people who want to stay long term and have families there. And in order to do that, you probably need jobs or a reason for people to be there.
Yeah, in a physical location. We chat about meme coins and stuff all the time, and one of the points that always keeps coming up is, meme coins are a bit like a cultural coin where people can coalesce around an idea or whatever, right? And I've used the example 1,000 times, but they're an Aussie example, and we've had the guys on with like Nouns and Dowers and Kami and these guys, and they've got a pretty successful global community where I don't know, but it seems like they seem to be doing really well, and a lot of people globally are still involved in that community without necessarily physically being in the same location, where they don't have to uproot their lives or their families, but they can participate. So there's no kind of that element to it as well. Like, people are kind of part of this community, but could be anywhere. But this sounds like this is actually more about bringing them to a location.
Yeah, I think so. I think like in order for it to work, they need to be able to scale up and then get people to help support the infrastructure, I guess the investment in the infrastructure, because if they're going to be building new buildings and they're going to be buying up places, then I think they need the people to actually help support that. Gotcha. Not only to like help build, but also to, I guess, you need the people to attract the people. Yeah, but like on the meme coin stuff, I can share a bit of a story. Someone did actually launch a meme coin when they were there, so they kind of leveraged the network school brand, and they I'm not gonna say which meme coin because they got to pay me for that. But
Righto.
Yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of degens there, and I remember when I was after my 11 a.m. gym session, or they call it the burn session, there were people just hanging around the gym and they were all on their phones. I was wondering like what's going on. So then they're like, oh my god, there's this like new meme coin, like Nietzsche AGI just like launched, and then I think people got rugged. But
that never happens in crypto.
Yeah. And then everyone was just like aping in. They're like, oh yeah, buy now. Oh, and then like someone was like, I'm gonna call my dad. Yeah. I was like, what? I want to get all my friends and family into it. So it was hilarious. It's just like they have this like meme coin chat where they just like share all these like new token launches.
Of course.
Then everyone's aping in. And then it went really bad for some people, I think. But yeah, I so nearly aped in because everyone else was like just hanging around, and it's like that peer pressure.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a funny mix of people. You've got like people who are traders, like people who just ape into anything, and then you've just got some hardcore Bitcoiners there
who just wouldn't touch it. When you first mentioned network state and the stuff, I'd never heard of it, so I didn't know any of this stuff until now. Now a lot. I thought you were going to mention something along the lines of like network state in terms of like how information travels with networks and how humans form these networks and crypto forms all this stuff. But this is a physical, real thing. And when you went there, you got to see the actual, I guess, the network effect of people sharing information.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Maybe there's more to it. I don't know, but
I think so. I think you've hit a point where it is about the dissemination of control and power, and I believe like that's what originally Bitcoin was about, and also a lot of like the crypto projects, which is about how you could have power in the hands of the few or power in the hands of many or everyone else. And network state is kind of based on that. So it's not about having a central government in control, creating the legislation that everybody has to live by, or even being in control of printing the money supply and affecting people's wealth. So it really is about the dissemination of power, control, and also information, like you said. Information, I suppose it's like when... To give a concrete example, people can build a decentralized application which allows almost anyone to access research data. Because right now, if you want to access it, you probably have to pay for it through these journals. Or
JSTOR. Aaron Schwartz had tried to do something about that. It was really last week.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good example.
Yeah.
So I think it's very much that, and it's I think it's also based on Balaji's. He's against he doesn't like how the FDA has performed in the past, where they're not approving drugs which could save a lot of lives. They're actually killing people by the bureaucracy, and how they keep on adding layers and layers on top of it. So I think I can't say for what will happen in the future, but I believe that some of the ideas of what's happening in Prospera, is it? In Honduras. So they have this pop-up city which is started by or funded by VitaDAO, and that's where they're doing a lot of like science experiments. I think it hasn't gone well for them because there was a flip in the government.
Not sure.
But they were doing a lot of like if startups wanted to, like biotech startups wanted to do experimentation, then they could go there, and it was a more regulatory friendly environment for them to do so. So I guess that's what network school may be about as well. No, I'm not saying exactly for biotech, but for other like technological areas where there isn't a clear framework for how you can operate, I guess by regulatory wise.
Okay. No, it's the whole idea is fascinating. I don't have a history degree in society and democracy and all this kind of stuff, but like we've kind of, I guess for a lot of period of time, we've always had monarchies and all this kind of stuff, and then we've had this experimentation in democracy, which I guess the US and the UK and a lot of Commonwealth countries have kind of sort of really gone for here. with network school, I mean, now we've got this idea of DAOs, right? And so this is where I guess where I'm going with this question. Now we kind of have these ideas of DAOs where people can kind of like in a decentralized way vote. It's kind of a democracy, right? A digital democracy, and people can just do this. And now we've got a network state potentially, which could kind of combine a physical location and a kind of digital democracy. Is there an element of like, you know, a DAO to network state where people can like maybe vote on direction where the network state is going, or do you know what I mean? Is you just kind of go there, or is it a bit a benign dictatorship where biology just goes, hey, here's my vision, and you kind of all just get behind it? A bit like, you know, maybe North Korea. North Korea has like, you know, ideals and all this kind of stuff, but obviously this is very economically liberal, not a communist country. But is there some kind of voting structure? Or
there isn't at the moment,
okay.
and that could be by design, because for the initial cohorts they're probably just trying to figure things out, because a lot of it is probably just logistics and community building. So you've got to make sure that if you have 150 people there, or even 1,000 people, that they can get fed, they have places to sleep, and then you just got to deal with all these, like you're fighting fires basically, like someone I don't know, had an accident or something. So I think they're just trying to establish the foundation of what could become a society, and then they may bring in more of a, I don't know, government, some sort of governance. That's what I mean, some sort of governance system, structure, which they haven't talked about. So I did actually think about that when I was there, that there was no mention of any governance system that they were going to put in place or anything. And maybe it's just too early days. But I did actually host a session on talking about building new societies or even network states. And a lot of people were talking about how if you're thinking about building long term, then you do need to think about how can people participate in the governance. So whether it's like direct democracy and you're voting directly on the policies and everyone gets an equal vote, or maybe you get more power, more voting units when you contribute more to that community. So a lot of people are already thinking in that direction. And I think like no one really wants to live under some sort of, you know, authoritarian government, right? So like I will say that a lot of people, well, some people have mentioned to me they're a little bit wary, because it just sounds like biology has created this network school and are people there, you know, just to follow what he says, and what he says is what goes. I think initially it's not exactly like that, but
this is what I'm kind of interested in. I mean, every civilization, I guess, has this challenge of going, well, how do we govern things? How do we structure things? Because like it's probably fairly easy to get 150 people to like-minded to kind of agree and work together and do stuff. But once you get to 10,000 or 100,000 or 150,000, you know, shit starts hitting the fan, and you've got to kind of have something in place, right? And I'm just wondering if they've got some ideas around how they might be able to do it better, because everyone probably thinks they can do it better than the current system, but what is that better system looking like? And maybe there is a role for, I don't know, decentralized, 100%. Like DAOs or something to play for a governance structure where there's a lot more transparency in how decisions are made.
DAOs haven't worked that well, I don't think, like even without a physical location. So I did an investment DAO, Future DAO, and I found that it was one of the most inefficient ways to invest. You might as well just like angel invest yourself, or just like give your money like as an LP to some like VC. So it's because like there's, even though it's like you're trying to operate as you're trying to operate outside of the traditional framework, but I still had to put a legal liability wrapper around it. So I registered that as an LLC. So then, of course, that has admin fees and like time that you have to put into managing that. So you got to make sure you're protected under the actual jurisdiction that you operate by. And then, of course, you have to make sure like financial services regulations are abided by. So that didn't work very well. Then I found like other DAOs where, I guess like Uniswap is a really good one, actually. They've worked okay. Synthetics, they're fine. They're pretty big, and they've managed to operate as well as a larger organization. But then a lot of DAOs have folded because a lot of people didn't participate because they were just too lazy to vote. Even I am, because like, I have to connect my wallet and vote. Right?
Well, you see this in the US. I mean, they don't have universal suffrage and people don't have to vote. And I don't know I don't know what the turnout rate for voting in the US is, but it's not 100%. That's for sure.
And that's why you have politics at the extremes, because it's not mandatory voting. So I'm really against like non-mandatory voting, even though I hated being forced to vote when I turned 18 in Australia, because I was just like,
wait, if you don't register, you don't have to vote.
they automatically register.
Oh, they register you now. Okay.
Yeah, and then they fine you if you
Oh,
don't
I
rock
didn't know.
up.
Okay.
So
It's probably a good thing.
yeah, exactly. But so actually, Network School was pretty interesting. They did hold DeFi sessions, so a lot of community-driven sessions around different topics. It could be around AI, DeFi, or just filmmaking, music making using AI tools. So then the DeFi sessions were really interesting. Actually, so they were pulling up the charts of different projects, and then they end up pulling up the chart of Transhuman Coin.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. So we had pumped like 300% in the last month or so. We've done really well because of the DeSci thing. So at DevCon, Vitalik and CZ from Binance were talking about like DeSci. So I think that's when like all the DeSci coins pumped. So then they pulled up the chart and they were like, oh my God, yeah, and they were cheering. And then they kept on like pulling the chart out. They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. It hasn't. So like we had a high of like we reached 20 mil market cap at some point, and then of course like we went through the bear, but then in the recent last 3 months we've done really well,
awesome.
really well. So but yeah, it was really funny because I was cheering, then everyone was like, oh my God, it's going into the red. It was like, and everybody started laughing.
All right.
But it was funny.
So obviously network state has been a big thing for you recently, but Transhuman Coin, at some point we had to touch that because that's your pet project. You've been doing it for ages now, and it's certainly what I think a lot of people like associate you with. Maybe just want to run through that, talk us through how that journey's been and what's been happening.
We started 3 years ago. We already had a community of about, I would say, like up to 50,000 globally because we partnered with other communities. And then eventually, and we started 10 years ago.
Yeah. So perhaps first of all, start what it is and what gave you the idea to start it all.
Yeah. So had this community starting from 10 years ago, and it's a community where everyone connects because they believe in using science and technology to enhance human biology. And back then, not a lot of people were talking about using BCIs or brain-computer interfaces, exoskeletons, or gene editing. And that's where my interest is in investing and like how do you make money by investing in the future? And those were the future technologies. So my reasons for getting involved were quite selfish. But then I founded a really great community along with my husband. And then we also had a local community because with all great movements, you need a larger global movement, but then these little pockets of communities where you can gather in person. So we created a really good one in Sydney and mainly in Sydney because that's where we're based, called Transhumanism Australia. And then 3 years ago, I think that's when the market picked up, we launched a token. This is a membership token for anyone who's a transhumanist. And then we ended up raising a whole bunch of money in the process. So as I mentioned, we reached 20 mil market cap. We did treasury management really well. And so we were able to donate or invest in a lot of science and tech projects, including working with the University of Technology Sydney on brain-computer interfaces, also funded longevity research by Alyse Sue University. Then after that, we are currently doing a telehealth network because what we found is a lot of our community is based in Africa, specifically Nigeria, and there's huge need for basic healthcare. And people who don't live, say, close to a clinic or in the major cities, they have a smartphone, but they can't access healthcare as easily. So that's what we're launching because we've found that this is our market, this is the need, and this is a product that we can launch. And so that's the next chapter for us. Then other things we've done is, we're on a reality TV show. So I haven't been in Sydney very much this year because I've been in LA. I was filming for Killer Whales. So it's a reality TV show that's by Hello Labs. And they're going to launch on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. So you can stream it.
Cool. I've got to ask another quick question on transhumanism. You've used the term. I must admit I don't know exactly what a transhumanism is as an idea. Can you just unpack that a little bit?
It's about it's a movement of people who want to use science and technology to enhance human biology. So, for example, if you believe that you want to enhance your intelligence, increase your memory capacity,
Okay.
or like moving away from the mind, if you want to be more physically, you believe in physical enhancement,
Okay.
being your best physical self. And also it's more about there's 3 pillars to it: achieving super longevity, super intelligence, and super well-being. So super longevity.
So Brian Johnson's probably a great example then. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, he's probably one of the most well-known transhumanists, whether he uses the term or not. So even Balaji, he's a transhumanist, but he doesn't like the term transhumanism because a lot of people think it's part of the LGBT movement, or it's just like it has
got trans in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it has like bad connotations for some people.
Yeah. So it's more the scientific aspect. It's not going, hey, I believe I'm a certain gender and all that kind of stuff. It's more to do with going, I can, how do I better enhance my
beyond human?
Yeah, beyond. Yeah. How do I make myself? How do I live to 105 in great health and this kind of stuff? Or how do I?
There's different ends of the spectrum. So at the very transhumanism light is probably about, I'm going to take my vitamins, I exercise, strength train daily, and I eat the blueprint diet. Actually, that's still pretty hardcore. I can't eat blueprint forever. Then at the other end is I want to mind upload. I want to transcend being a human because I believe it is a very inefficient way to survive.
Biohacking and this kind of might be part of that spectrum.
Yeah. So you're going to meet all types of people in the transhuman community.
Right.
I believe on the other end of the spectrum, the more extreme for some people, which is I don't want to be in a protein-based body. I think it's pretty inefficient that we have to keep on feeding ourselves. So we need the nutrients to survive and we need sleep. Like that already takes up 8 hours of our day. So why not mind upload? So
I was going to say, like, what is it, Ghost in the Machine, all those types of things where people like kind of merge with the like merge with the machines. And
Pantheon is a really good series. It's a short series that you should watch, and where we live among people who've mind uploaded, and then some people who choose to stay in the human form. And on the mind uploading part, when I was at network school, I got really bored. So there's nothing to do in Forest City.
You can work out. Oh.
Yeah. So I met this guy on LinkedIn just randomly. I literally did not know him before. And then he said he works in data centers. So I was like, oh, hey, well, do you want to like take me around to see a data center? Because I don't think I've seen one before. So he takes me into this place called Cyberjaya. It's a suburb that's near Kuala Lumpur. Okay. And that's basically where all the data centers are. All the hyperscalers like Microsoft, Amazon, maybe even Google, they all build there. And why they go to Malaysia is because I think electricity is cheap, there's abundant land, and it's sort of like the epicenter of Southeast Asia. So Singapore just basically has no
good
land
location
anymore.
And stuff as well. Yep.
Yeah, and I think they have the labor, the skills that can build.
Gotcha. Yep.
So then I went there and I was like, oh my God, it's like full of data centers. There's no people living there. Cyberjaya is basically just a data center city, and there's buildings around, but I think they're probably like ghost towns, right? So then I was just like, that's where we're going to live in the future. This is like, that's my future home. I'll be living in that data center when I mind upload.
Right. So what's your view then? What's your view? What's the inner work? What if you could upload your mind into a computer, what could we read or see?
Hopefully BCIs will get good enough that it's able to read and write. So uploading is easier than writing at the moment. I'm really hoping that I could upload my entire consciousness and I guess have the real me. Everybody asks, when you upload, is it really the real you or is it just a copy of you? So I'm hoping it'll be maybe even a copy of me is fine. Because like what will I know if the original me is dead? I won't really care, right? I think it's like, what is the next form of humans is the question.
It's a big question. I'm not sure I'm equipped to ask the right questions because I don't think I've necessarily thought that.
It could be powered by crypto,
powered by crypto.
Because you need like, a native way to digitally native way to.
Yeah, I guess it's such a fascinating topic. I know, Jared, we need to get your mics because you're
altered carbon.
Yes.
That show where they have
Stacks and sleeves.
And there was one, and to answer your question, there was one guy, and the rich people have uploads, and so they can do a backup every week of their consciousness to a certain point. And this guy dies 4 days after his last upload, and he's able to be brought back. But in the sense of continuity, it's not him, because there's 4 days that the other him has existed that this other person has no knowledge of. So there's like a divergence point.
Yeah, let's say, for example, you were in a teleportation thing, but your conscious is able to be transported from here to Mars or somewhere, but your body can't go because it's physical. So you get transported into a new body. I don't know. And then what happens to your old body? What happens to it? You kind of just have to incinerate it and move to it. It's
rearrangement of atoms. So it's actually not you anymore.
That's right. And if you rearrange the whole everything, how do you not atomize, I guess, and rearrange your consciousness? I don't know. It's a big question. I don't know. It's very fascinating.
It's very Black Mirror. San Junipero.
I love Black Mirror.
It's my favorite episode. And that's exactly what I was thinking when I was at
yes.
Cyberjaya. Yeah, Cyberjaya is also another ghost city. So in Malaysia, you'll see that there's all these, they build hoping that people will come. So property is cheap there. And Forest City is actually a failed real estate development. So I think that's where Balaji kind of saw opportunity to come in.
Snap it up.
Yeah. Yeah, because infrastructure's there, but the people aren't.
Right, so you just got to fill it with people. I'd love to know more about, I guess we can go to he's got like a manifesto or something like that, someone can read to sort of see his vision of this thing, or is it really just hey, come build it?
Yeah. So read the Network State book first, then read his blog about Network School. It's like on ns.com/school. Right.
Hey, and when you went there, like you mentioned at the beginning, because you're female, you think that might have given you a leg up. So crypto, and this is
it's true, isn't it? Though
it's very true. No, it's very true. And this is the thing, like we've been, it's great to have like a diverse group of people in crypto, because it can't just be all dudes, and it's not all just dudes anymore, as you know, obviously. But what was the breakup? Was there much diversity, or was it pretty much just dudes?
30-70 or 40-60. I wasn't really counting.
Okay.
But they did have this group shot, and only the dudes had a group shot. And I was just like, where are the girls? Like, why didn't we get one? Yeah. So I think it is overwhelmingly male, and it's probably a reflection of the followers of Balaji and crypto as well. So, but I think it's like, okay, as a transhumanist, I don't really care about gender that much, because when you're mind uploading, does gender really matter that much?
I guess not.
I think the alignment of thought matters a lot more. I think they've achieved it to a certain extent. I think they can do better. So when they made me do the second quiz, so there's there's 2 levels of the application. First is they ask you why you're interested, and I literally just said, oh, I do transhumanism and I'm a girl. and I was just joking. I was like, I'm never going to get in, man. So then I got in. I was like, oh, I better take this seriously. And then I got to rearrange my life to be there. But then the second level.
Yeah, but you said there's 30, maybe 40% girls there. I mean, that's higher than a typical crypto conference, to be fair.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't think everyone is in crypto.
I
don't think, I do know not everyone is in crypto, because they tried to create a mix of people who are creatives, people who are developers, and then I forget the third category. So there are some people who weren't really even technical.
So it's
or crypto.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a link with crypto, but reality is it's a much broader kind of thing.
Yeah. And then just briefly on the second level of the application is where they ask you to fill out this pretty lengthy quiz. And I want to share it one day. I think it's really interesting. That was probably where they were meant to do a second layer of filtering, so that they could make sure there was more alignment and commonality within the community that they initially created. Because I think that's important, because if you find your tribe, then you're more likely to stick around. Whereas I know some people kind of felt like, well, I'm in AI, but I haven't found my tribe here, because there's no other people that I can ask for tips and tricks or even build with. So they probably left to, go back to San Francisco, because it's just a much better community there. Also, Network School is meant to be about an alternative to San Francisco, I think, or Bay Area. I think that's kind of difficult, because there is such a huge concentration of people where you can find alignment with in the Bay Area already, that it would be really hard to, unless they can they can find, like, they can truly create a common thread amongst all the people that they bring over there, whether it's 1,000, 10,000 or 100,000. Because otherwise I don't see why I would choose that location over, say, Bay Area.
Yeah, I guess that's where I keep my sort of curiosity with this comes back to, is like, you got this city, if you're going to need physical people there, and it's going to be this kind of different kind of elevated way of thinking. I guess that's kind of the promise. You know, I watched a doco on about like the 60s, right? And there was the hippie movement and all this kind of stuff. And everyone's like, oh, well, we'll just live in communes and it'll be great and we'll peace, love and happiness and all this kind of stuff. And the people who were part of that community were like, it was all going great until we like had kids. And then they're like, oh, shit got real and how could I deal with that? Things are kind of, you know, things kind of changed a little bit like that. So I guess I'm just trying to think, like, it's this cool idea where you guys are going to go, like they're going to have this, like, this city where, like, I guess techno-libertarian, I think it was the term we used. And that's, you know, eventually they're going to have families and like you have to have infrastructure and the techno-libertarians, but you need plumbers and stuff now as well. And maybe they're not going to share quite that same view. And do you know what I mean? It's going to be, it'd be fascinating to see what happens.
They are making it kid-friendly. I don't know how kid-friendly it is now. Like, kids are welcome, but there's not much to do for them. And I mean, like, we host these sessions and like kids are going to be bored. So what they do have is Startup Kids Club. And that's where they have these, like, I think it's held every few weekends where kids from Singapore are coming over to, and also the kids from Network School can participate. And they have these presentations and all these like workshops, like creating AI music or AI comic strip or something. I did a robotics talk and a robotics session for kids. So they are trying to make it a bit more kids friendly. And I think like they're pro-natalist, so they definitely do want the kids
I'd love
there.
How does that fit in? Because you did, I know we weren't recording it, but you were talking about biology as a pro-natalist.
Yeah.
And what that means.
I don't know if he would identify as that, but yeah, I think he's definitely like pro kids and for kids, and he wants to create Network School to be kid friendly, because he does recognize that unless you make it kid friendly, then people aren't going to come here and they're not going to settle here, because it's the families that matter the most. There is actually already a school there at Forest City, but I think I did hear this talk about like 1,000 heirs, and I don't know, I haven't heard the talk just yet, but apparently biology was going to give some sort of like lecture on it, and I'd be really curious to hear what it's all about.
All right, so we have to kind of wait for that one.
Yeah.
All right, this has been awesome. So we've already talked about like Network State. You mentioned something before, Network School. That's part of Network State.
Yeah, it's like Network School is the physical space. It's less controversial than calling it the Network State, I believe. I mean, this is just my opinion and why I think it's called Network School instead.
Okay, so they're the same thing. Okay.
Yeah. So Network State is the book, but then they're creating a Network State at Network School.
Okay, cool. Oh, got you. So how close are we? I guess you're closer to this than me, but how close are we to the like realization? I know Elon's doing like Neuralink things like this. How close are we to going, we can kind of plug your consciousness into some sort of machine and kind of read what your brain, or power stuff with your brain, or upload it, whatever it is, to be you. Do you know what I mean? Is that a thing that's achievable within this lifetime, or?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think they're going to start doing it in healthy humans probably within 5 years.
Within 5 years?
Yeah, there's Synchron, there's Neuralink. Synchron's an Australian company, and there's many others, but these are the ones that I know the best, and they help people with disabilities. So whether they're quadriplegics or they've got some other neuro disease.
Like, for example, if like ALS. You had I don't know, issues with seeing, like you were blind or something, and going, well, we could kind of like potentially beam, I guess, an image into your mind directly. Is that kind of?
Stimulate the optic nerve. Yes, for sure. So as long as they can locate where that is, then they can connect threads to it. So you have this implant, and it should usually have like threads that are, or they're kind of stimulating the area of the brain that is relevant to the restoring that lost ability. whether it's like sight or I guess like movement of the arm or something. So sight is a good one because that is the second Neuralink patient. So restoring sight. Easy.
Yeah, so this is the fascinating stuff, I guess, trying to bring this stuff back to make it real. It's not kind of airy-fairy kind of ideally stuff. It's going, what can we practically do today to kind of enhance? I guess the immediate application is going to be in medical applications and people with disabilities and kind of stuff like that.
Yeah, it's sort
And
of
then,
like,
but then also enhance people's regular experience.
yeah, definitely. And I think it's people have, it's like you got nothing to lose. It's like if you are degenerating or you are dying,
we've got
then
Lou
you
Gehrig's
would
disease or
choose-
something, right?
Yeah. Whereas healthy people, it's like, oh, that's risky.
Mm.
Am I going to be in a worse or better position? So until they have enough human trials and they've got the data to prove it's safe, it's not going to be approved by the FDA and other bodies. And people, it's also that psychological barrier that people have, that they don't want to be the first to try things. I mean, I don't think I'm an early adopter in terms of BCI if it's invasive. But I do think that it will become really important in the next 5 to 10 years, because it's going to create a class of haves and have-nots where, I mean, AI is already disrupting a lot of jobs, but the next big disruption is going to be through BCIs. So that if you're not using a BCI to perform your job, then like, what need do I have for you? Because I need enhanced individuals.
Okay.
Even through phones, actually, this is a really good example. So it's like, this is already I guess you could call it like a proto BCI, because you are outsourcing your the information to your phone, because you no longer remember this, but you just remember where it's stored or how you search for it.
It's totally. There's Steve Jobs, I remember, had this great example. He was talking about the power of like computing and technology that has on people's lives. He gave, like, it's a really simple analogy, but it's actually kind of true, just like you said with the phone. But this is probably the realization of what he was talking about, because this is well before the iPhone and everything came out. And he said he saw like just an infographic of like how efficient various animals were with traveling distance, and like who could travel the most distance per amount of energy input or whatever, right? And so it looked at like like the cheetah or whatever, they could go really fast, but they couldn't go very long, they'd overheat. And humans were kind of still pretty ordinary, but like you looked at like some eagle or something that could it just dominated, right? And it was, as far as the animal kingdom was concerned, the most energy efficient creature. But then someone had the bright idea of going, well, okay, let's put a human on a bike and see how that translates. And that human then dominated the eagle, right? Whatever bird it was that was soaring using its wing. And that was kind of his thing, going, oh, well, this is kind of the why technology is important. It's kind of like humans can leverage this thing. And as soon as you put a human on a bike, it's now the most efficient like energy per transportation, I guess, creature in the world. And you can enhance that through technology. And he's like, well, everyone should learn to code, because like exactly like you've said, you might not have a superpower memory, but you've got, as long as there's energy in your phone, you can literally remember thousands, maybe however many phone numbers because of technology. You couldn't do that as a human, but you can with the phone. So I guess the next evolution of that is exactly what you're saying, just to try and bring it back to like the reality of what potentially transhumanism is, right?
Have one of these inside here.
Inside your brain,
I don't want to carry this around.
Yeah.
And then the next part is probably just wearables. So the Ray-Bans, I think that's probably the most feasible way that people are going to ditch the phones and have these proto BCIs. And you might even have like you know how you can already have bone conduction? So it's like listening to music and all this other stuff. They're probably going to use.
Well, that's how hearing aids like work these days. They just kind of
Yeah, and Apple has this patent out for their next AirPods, which is like it's a BCI device basically.
Yeah. Okay, so we are closer than you think. So it's like all this stuff that we're looking at. It's kind of already on that path. It's actually going. We're just recognizing there is this path. It's already happening. You're either into it or you'll be into it eventually when it's delivered to the masses, kind of thing.
I think writing is harder. Reading, brainwaves, easier, but writing they still haven't got right, and it's not very. So even reading sometimes isn't very accurate, and just based on what I've seen from say UTS, where we had this demo at South by Southwest with UTS on the Dream Machine. So you wear this device on your head. It's non-invasive. It's just like cap or headband, and then it's meant to kind of detect what you're thinking about, whether it's apple, horse, a plant, and then it'll show it on the screen.
Gotcha.
It was only, I think at the time, this is like a year ago, 50% accurate.
Oh, right.
So even then it's really hard. Like I think for really simple things, like if you're, let's say you're quadriplegic and you want to turn your wheelchair left and right, I think that's easier because you're only thinking about one thing and you're not thinking about a complex object. And it needs to determine, are you thinking of a brown plant, a green plant? Is it dead, alive? Is it apple, like what variety it is? And then that's just one object. But then when you think of these complex scenes, when you dream, you've probably got all these, you've got people to think about, you've got objects, then you've got like different layers, you've got like background, foreground. So that becomes very complex. And I think it's it's further into the future where we can have 100% accuracy in being able to translate your dreams.
Yeah, okay, fascinating. There's my favorite movie as a kid was Ghostbusters, the original one, and I remember there was the, I don't know if do you remember those Ghostbusters? And they had that, remember the contraption they put on their head? Remember the Venkman had the I don't know if it was a mind reader or something, and I just assumed that all kind of transhumanism stuff somehow looks like that. You still got the skull caps and
probably, but it's become more tasteful.
More tasteful,
yes. Yeah, it's not just dudes sitting around thinking, oh yeah, that would be cool, this is what the future looks like.
So you reckon we're only 5 years away then from having kind of like,
I reckon, I mean, like if you look at AGI, when do you think AGI will happen?
I don't know.
Within 2 years is what I think Sam and what's his name, the Anthropic guy, has said. So if we have AGI within 2 years, then that will help with the software, especially being able to read and write, because it's still, at the end of the day, you have these devices, but it's about the data that you either collect or you're trying to write into your brain. So AGI will definitely help with that, and that will just accelerate the ability. Hardware is still probably an issue because then you've got to think about like bandwidth and battery and all the other stuff.
Yeah, like I think the one thing, I don't know how long this stuff takes, but I think the answer is always sooner than people realize. We have this tendency to think that technological advancement is linear when in fact it's exponential. And you can sort of look that over any period of time. I guess we still don't know how the pyramids were built, but still, like, you know, most likely if you took someone from the 1700s and replant them in like the 1800s, over 100 years, not much has changed.
Yeah.
But you take someone over, say, the 1850s to 1900s, and it's going to take them a lot quicker to adapt, right? There's now like, you know what I mean? There's now like electricity and there's now like telephones, and they're like, hang on a second, and then if you took someone from like 1900 and took them forward another 100 years, and it's a completely different world. Like even from 70 years ago, take someone 50 years ago who's never seen any of the technological advancements over since the internet and everything since then, and bring him into now. I imagine they'd be completely overwhelmed.
I think there's a compounding effects of Moore's law. So it's like the doubling of processing power every 18 months. So that compounds as we go along. And I think that's why we're seeing the breakthroughs in AI happen so much faster. So it's like from GPT, say 1 to 2, I can't remember how long that was, but we're seeing like shorter time periods between the release of the next version, and they're getting better. A lot of people think that GPT-5, we won't see that much difference between 4, but because of like being able to access the data and also like compute, I suppose. But I think that with say the effects of Moore's law, I think we're just going to continue seeing the time frames between the next version just continue to shorten.
Yeah, fascinating. So I guess I have to ask the question about how does this somehow tie back to crypto? So the transhumanism part and the changes that might bring to society, is there a tie-in with like crypto? Like, because it seems to be some kind of connection there. Is there any connection there at all, or is that just something where it's just like arbitrarily sort of sticking together?
Yeah, the principles of crypto really align with transhumanism. So it's about self-sovereignty and open source, and we're all about that. In the transhuman community, which is why a lot of the early adopters of crypto are transhumanists. That was actually my introduction to Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that's when we you would know some of the community, the people who started the early Sid ETH meetups here. So, and they're also transhumanists. And it's because of these aligned principles that you see a lot of people who are, say, at network school or in the transhuman coin community. We're all techno optimists, and most of us believe in the power of crypto.
Yeah.
So it has become really powerful. And I think for a lot of people, crypto has transformed lives.
Yep.
And it's because they were early adopters and believers in those living by the principles of open source and self-sovereignty.
That you use the term techno-optimist, which is probably, I'm sure, maybe I've heard it somewhere before, but that seems to be really apt, right? That seems to be exactly, people go, hang on, because whenever you get new technology, there's always pros and cons. Technology is just a tool, but people who apply it for good and people who apply it for things that aren't so good. But the optimists, I guess, are out there going, well, what's next? I guess is somewhat sort of like the people who are kind of looking to the good side of technology and how it can better human existence, and how can we better technology to continue bettering it. So if that makes sense, that seems to be the vibe.
I think the early adopters of crypto are definitely techno optimists. I mean, you have a lot of finance bros who are just in it because they're like, oh, it's a new asset class and we better be in it. And they don't necessarily hold it or believe in it for the same reasons, right? Because they think it's going to change the world or it's going to decentralize power, because that's not what they want to do. Yeah,
it's funny that you say that, because it's the one of the the classic finance bro kind of thing is like, oh, what are you going to do with it eventually? What are you going to do with it? Like, you're just gambling, you're just speculating. It's like, yes, it's volatile, but like a lot of people, and it's hard to sort of convey this to a lot of people who think it's just about making money. It's going, no, there's lots of people who believe in the idea of decentralization and private property and being able to go, well, look, I now have a financial system that is not controlled by anyone, it's controlled by everyone. And that's a really powerful idea. And some people buy into that idea, and other people just look over and be like, it's just for making money, isn't it? And the actual thing is, like, a lot of people are getting to transhumanism, I guess now. People are there for not just for making money, although you were originally.
Yeah.
You came for the money, but you stayed for the revolution.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're missionaries, not mercenaries.
Yeah, okay.
We always say at Transhuman Coin.
Okay. That's a good one. Hey, speaking of, we've got to do some questions. So Jared loves to get the 20 questions in there. We have asked over the last one a bunch of times about Skynet, and when a heavily touted version of yourself comes back and just says, don't invest in Skycoin. Or they say, do invest in Skycoin. I can't remember. Anyway, I should have known because I've asked that question a few times.
Skycoin.
I should have definitely asked that question of you. But we've gone with some new questions for you today. So I have, like, Jared slipped these through halfway through. I don't even know what I'm about to ask, but I think, you want to do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Biggest fumble of your career so far?
Going for money rather than passion. It's like when you receive a contract and you're like, wow, that's the most money that I've ever been paid. I'll take it even if I don't like the job. Yeah, never again. I think I've done that twice. I looked through, I did, of course, troll your LinkedIn, having a look at some of your careers. I'm not going to say it because I don't want to mention it, but afterwards, I reckon I can guess. I may have removed one of them too.
I reckon
because I didn't want people asking me, how come you're only there for a few months? Because that just looks bad. But yeah, it wasn't the best environment to be in.
Right. Okay.
You're the CTO of Hop to a Coin?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, how did you know?
Hey, I went on Ausbiz and I did not expect it. And they wanted to talk about like what was new for crypto. And I thought they'd ask about like Donald Trump and this kind of stuff. And then one of the examples they brought up was the Hop to a meme coin.
No.
And I was like, I don't know how deep you want to go down this one, but I kind of glassed it.
Do you know all the details about?
Yeah, we kind of looked into it. When I say all the details, I don't know, but like it was a good rugging. But I guess the question is, was she involved in the rugging? Or I think she probably just got involved with some people who did the rugging, and she
probably had no idea.
And she was unwittingly probably promoting a rugging.
Yeah.
Either way, like
that's kind of how I feel about a lot of meme coins. Yeah, I saw a lot of that at network school. I'm like, I think people don't realize they're being used.
Look, one of the things we see all the time with we're sort of at the exchange are constantly looking out for scams and how to avoid scams. And by far the most insidious one, the one that's hardest for people to kind of wrap their head around, is when a friend is unwittingly scamming them. And this happens all the time. Like someone will come and they genuinely believe whatever's going on is real. Maybe they just don't know any better, or maybe they just got they're being fed a line, hook, line, and sinker into some form of scam, whether it's like a pyramid stealing scheme or just something, right? And they are the ones. So let's say, for example, I've got someone in behind, but I come to you and Alyse, I go, I've got the best meme coin ever behind it. And so you go, oh, I know, Lee, he wouldn't be trying to scam me. And I'm not trying to scam you. I'm trying to think I'm helping you out, but there's a person behind me scamming you. And they're ones you can pick up straight away because someone will come to you and be like, I got, the royal family in the Middle East wants to buy $1 billion worth of Bitcoin. They want to buy it today. And can you help me do this deal and all this kind of stuff like that? And you're like, wow, like they don't know they're being scammed. And somehow they're telling their friends and they're roping their friends into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, there's too many layers to the scam.
There's too many layers, and that's the one that's really hard. They're like, no, I trust my friend. It's like, yeah, I know you trust your friend, but how do you know your friend is not unwittingly being scammed? And they're like, what? That's the hard one for me. We've all been rugged once or twice. What would you be doing if you weren't in crypto? Oh, that's easy. You'd be in.
Oh, yeah. I guess AI.
AI.
Yeah. I guess I'm kind of returning to it. Too early to share details.
Too early. Watch your space. So you kind of already leaving crypto, or you kind of decide doing two things at once.
Yeah, I think I've always kind of been. Crypto is a really good way to tap into the transhumanist community because most of them are in crypto. So it's sort of like this. It's like a pathway into how do you leverage other communities to build your community.
There's a nice little crossover in the Venn diagram.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. All right, this is going to be an interesting one for you. Are you in favor or opposed to cybernetic enhancements? I reckon for humans. I'm guessing we kind of know the answer. But if so, what would you like to get?
Oh, I think I talked about mind uploading. That if I were to still have a body, I think I just want to upgrade the limbs. Like, wouldn't you want like a bionic arm? I've always thought it was really cool. Like, I know, some people have actually lost an arm and it's like really unfortunate, but I've always thought it's just so cool. Like, it just feels robotic and futuristic.
Right. Perfect. Okay. All right. Next one. What piece of advice has stuck with you for life?
This is a recent one. So not for life, but realizing it's better to be the only one rather than to be the best. And this is probably more relevant for business. I'm not competitive like in my personal life, but why compete with others when you can be the only one that does that? Yeah,
true. No competition. You just win by doing it.
Yeah. Like, what about for IR? What's like the one thing where you're the only one that does it?
It's a good question. The only thing that does it, well, we're an exchange. So I guess there's lots of exchanges. There's lots of little things that we do that are different. Definitely. Yeah.
It's important. You need to have fun.
That's true.
I did go to an epic party back in 2018 across the road at your old office.
Did we had you along for? I'm pretty sure I invited you to when we had the 11-year party here, didn't I? You and Peter? Pretty sure I did. Sure. You guys turned us down.
Oh, bugger. I didn't receive it. It got lost in the mail.
Got lost in the mail. Had better plans.
Yeah. No, never better plans than IR.
What is one thing that gives you the biggest nostalgia?
Can I just say like prices? I realize I'm old. Yeah, I realize I'm old when I just I look at something and I think, wasn't that just like $10? Because now it's $30. Have prices truly tripled? And then I realized that I'm probably living back in like the 2010s or the 2010s when I actually had to start budgeting and because I was spending my own money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're like, you're leaving home and you're suddenly like, you have to care about the price of things. So my mind is stuck back in the 2010s.
Oh, that you know what? I think I definitely agree with that. I remember when I was a little boy, I guess I was maybe 8 or 9. My grandfather was talking about how he, back in his day, used to do a full day's work for 50 cents or whatever it was. And he was always complaining about the prices.
I sound like an old person now. It's like back in my day.
You can't help it, like, because you do get anchored. It's like a bit like how people's music taste kind of stops around the time of the 18 or whatever, because then they stop listening to music, so their music taste gets frozen in time. Because the same thing kind of happens with our expectation around prices and stuff like that.
Tell me about it. Yeah, even like crypto prices. You think, wasn't that cheaper like 15 years ago? Or did it exist? Oh, it did.
It did.
Just.
Yeah. What are the personality traits / political persuasions that are selected for network state?
Capitalists, I think, but I think also communists and socialism works. We just never had the technology to enable that to happen before. But now that we have blockchain, then you can do decentralization and sharing of resources and shared ownership much easier, and the attribution of effort so that you, I guess, are rewarded for your efforts, and you can track that via blockchain. However, it is about capitalism, techno-capitalism, techno-optimism is what is favored at network school. So you must believe in the power of technology.
Okay.
And to use technology to progress society.
Okay.
So no D cells.
No D cells. No D cells. Yeah, it's just
or incels.
or incels for that matter. I would have thought so. Okay, well, this is now Jared's like giving me a cheeky grin. We don't have a camera. We haven't got your mic or a camera. From the outside, Bitcoin Island and network state gives us Jonestown vibes.
What's that?
Jonestown. Oh, Jared, here's
You
your chance.
explain.
So Jonestown. Oh, well, actually. Well, I haven't actually asked the question yet. So the question is, would you leave if they started serving Kool-Aid?
Okay, so you needed to explain that. I'll be like, yeah, we've already drank the Kool-Aid.
Oh, you already had it still here?
Yeah. Oh, well, okay. Serious concerns. It really is. Yeah, like major brownie points for that one. So there are some people, when I initially told them about network school, they're like, it sounds like a cult. And so there's this one dude who started network school, and you all go and like worship him. And I'm like, yeah, when I read everything and I took everything into perspective, I was like, shit, it does kind of sound a bit cultish.
But this is how cults drag you in, I guess. They do sound good.
It's true. And then you had a lot of plus ones that came to network school to check out what their boyfriend or their husband or I don't know, other were doing, because they're just like, have they joined a cult? And then they came there and they're like, oh no, it's okay. It's like, it's more like a technology society where people are just, the best way to describe it is like, it's living in college. So if you've ever lived at a dorm and you go there alone, but you're also just like chilling out, and then you have food catered because you're eating at the dorm, at a communal table, like that's exactly what it's like. Or another way to put it is, it's like co-living and co-working at the same time. What Adam Newman was trying to create is basically what I was living for the last month.
A global WeWork.
Yeah.
Not a global WeWork, a full city
global
WeWork.
We work, we live type of thing mashed together.
Yeah, we live. Yeah, okay.
But with more commonality between people, that they're all techno-optimists.
Okay, but this is I guess the perennial problem is like how humans for millennia have been trying to organize the optimal way to kind of do stuff together. We don't seem to be that great at getting along is a problem.
No, and the rise and fall of civilizations is a lecture that we were listening to, and I was just thinking of, okay, it's very interesting because there's a lot of societies that don't survive for that many centuries. There's always like, the Roman Empire, and then we're kind of seeing the decline of the US. So I think, there's rise and falls, and network school is kind of banking on that, because it talks about the I guess the decline of the Western world. So Europeans, like, they're D-cells. You can see all their policies are against technology. Like, they're banning ChatGPT. They're not very favorable towards like energy. So they shut down all their nuclear power plants. So they're going backwards, and you're kind of seeing the decline of society in the States, where you see a lot of like drug problems, homelessness. It's prevalent across the major cities in the US. And then you compare it to Asia. So if I compared my trips US and then a few months after I went to Asia, I was like, oh, wow, like the US is truly a decel society where I never felt safe. There was homelessness and drugs everywhere, and no new buildings. Everything stank and everything was just heritage. And then I went to Bangkok and everything was like clean and modern and they were building. There was such a huge contrast between the West and the East.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Lasanka recently went to the UAE, and the UAE has been very forward focused on making sure they, for them, they go, well, this is kind of life or death. They've been so dependent on oil, and obviously there's a change there. And so they're like, we want to remove our reliance on fossil fuels and build it. So they're being so actively pro-focused technology and crypto in particular. They want all their businesses to go there. And LP gave a great example. He's like, they have regular meetups, and you contrast this with what's going on with sort of ASIC, where they kind of bringing stuff out. They're not sure what they're doing and they're dilly-dallying. Over there, they're really forward-focused, where industry and government are really working together to create the most pro kind of like environment for that business and then those to succeed. That, he kind of says, like, they have regular meetups between industry and government. They kind of walk out high-fiving each other at the end of the day because they're so pumped to do the stuff together. Contrast that with what's happening in the West and definitely in Australia, I guess, when we have like almost like it's like, why are we butting heads when we could work together? But that's the reality. Like you said, the West is this element of decel where people are going, no, we have to slow everything down and we can't get together anymore because business is business and government's government and we can't work along. It's like, well, you can. And UAE right now is probably a really good example because of all their regulation and everything they're doing. And it's almost like the new America in a certain sense, where like everyone, all the people who are moving there go, well, I just want to go and create something. And so it's probably not a surprise, to tie this all back together, that there is places like Network State going, you know what? Whatever's going on here, it's kind of shit. Let's just give something a go. At least experiment. Maybe we don't have all the answers yet, but let's just try something new and see if it works.
Yeah, I think biology is definitely ahead of his time. A lot more people are going to do what he's trying to do. There's a lot of pop-up cities actually around the world. Africa, I think Thailand, and then Honduras I talked about. Many, many other places. There's probably at least like 20 of them or more. But I think like his vision of a true network state, I think it's still too early to truly achieve. I think the best time to achieve this is when the world has gone to chaos. There's probably civil war, and that's when you can really carve out a piece of land or territory for yourself. Because right now, when you have too much stability and you have fully functioning governments who can defend their territory, then who's going to want to give up anything? How are you going to infiltrate? Because to do something of this scale, I'm not saying network school is this, but I'm just talking about network state as the theory. You need defense, and you need, so first you need to be able to acquire it, but you also need to defend it to keep it. And I can't think of many instances where anyone has been able to just come in and take territory without having huge military power behind them.
It's fascinating.
Oh, and in the book Network State, he does talk about Israel being a proto-network state, because it's like you have this network of people who are connected by this ideology or this religion, and then they found their physical territory.
Fascinating. Yeah, totally. It's I guess the things are always changing and evolving. Nothing's ever going to stay the same. So to think that the current state system that we have is going to be the same thing forever is naive. Really, it's going to change and evolve, and things like this are going to happen. All right, we've got to keep going with the questions. If you were president of the world, what is one thing you'd change on day one?
Get an AI to rule. An all-knowing, all-seeing, benevolent dictator.
Skynet.
But benevolent Skynet. Yes.
Benevolent Skynet.
Yeah. Because I think humans are flawed. We're emotional and we're biased. So just get AI to do it, and like AI will make decisions that are optimal on a society level, not for any particular individual. So they should be immune to any corruption.
Okay, that's fascinating. Well, the Skynet coin, we know you're not.
Is it pumping? Have you launched one?
Where do you see the most impactful implementation of modern robotics?
Agriculture, especially for Australia, is huge. So it's to do with food security, food chain. And if we just think about the basic needs, so food, shelter, water, and then think about how you can apply automation to each of those areas. Shelter, not so much. Like construction, we haven't seen a lot of automation in the building industry just yet. It's very difficult because I went through like 2 renovations and I just realized that every configuration is different. So every job site or house is very different. So, and it's very messy. You need a robot that can navigate uneven surfaces or very narrow surfaces. Areas. So that food is the next one. So that's why I say agriculture. You see a lot of the big farms like the Costas, they are pretty much automated. I mean, like even if you doesn't, everyone's familiar with the wheat farms and they have those like big hangers that just navigate through the field and they're spraying pesticide and they're harvesting as well. So wheat, berries, and tomatoes. There's lots of devices to harvest these type of plants already. But we're not seeing a lot of automation in the small scale farms just yet. So that's where I think the bigger impact would be for the SMBs. They have money to pay for it. They have high turnover, but they are underserved. So if I go back to just where we should applying automation, it should always be about meeting our basic needs first. What's the other? Food, shelter, water. Water, yeah, that's an interesting one. So, yeah, you can't really do much automation in that, unfortunately. So another area for robotics is probably in healthcare, especially surgery. This has been done for many, many years now. But it's the precision that you can achieve just by, when you go into, have you seen those movies where people are just going into these like chambers and then like you can get scanned and healed?
Oh, yeah.
That's where we should get to, the level of healthcare where it's not a human.
The robots are whizzing around and fixing arms and replacing limbs and stuff.
Yeah. You just need like robotic arms to perform these like micro incisions so you can have like non-invasive, not as invasive surgery.
Yeah, fascinating. All right, last question. We've definitely gone places. It's been fascinating. But something to keep us grounded. Give me your 2025 Bitcoin price prediction.
150 top.
150, you reckon? Right. Why so bearish?
Oh, what's your prediction? I thought I was.
Oh, no.
Average.
You reckon? I reckon most people go around 180, 200. But some people said 350. I think that's probably our highest.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I guess I better buy more then. I've not been accumulating.
Oh, you're probably hopefully you're sitting on a big bag anyway.
Well, yeah, hopefully.
hopefully. Well, you got all your transhuman coin.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we've been doing okay. So I think like I think for transhuman coin, it is really about, we want it to be a membership token, like for sure. So for us, it wasn't really about like making money at all. It was really about how we could spread transhumanism, because at the end of the day, so even though I truly believe in the power of crypto, I have a bigger belief in productive assets. So and through transhumanism, this is where we're trying to influence more people to contribute more by creating productive assets. So how they could create, I guess, better future for humans so that we can live healthier, we can live longer. So working on therapies. Actually, I had really good conversations at network school where we talked about what matters in the future. And then I sort of brought it down to, well, what do we actually need? Energy. Like, as long as we have access to energy and maybe compute, because we need intelligence. Intelligence is powering everything, including, say, discovering therapies to help us live longer and healthier, which is which is pretty much what transhumanism is about. Longer, healthier, but, better as well. So then I kind of boil it down to you either work on energy or you work on compute and being able to provide it to everybody so that it's not scarcity you're dealing with, but abundance.
Amazing. That's awesome. All right. Well, there's watch your space, I guess, because there's so much happening. And I look, it's been fascinating for me because I had no idea there was so much stuff happening in this space, and it's there's a lot happening under the surface that maybe people are now aware of. That's awesome.
Come to network school.
Okay, they won't let me in now because I call it a cult. I'll be the first one they give Kool-Aid to.
Well, now I know.
But I am fascinated with the idea. I'm going to look into it because it's a fascinating idea, and I guess we kind of touched on it. It's like it's no surprise with everything that's going on that people are going, you know what, we could probably just create our own societies now. I guess we have the financial means to kind of rails now, and that's this decentralized currency of the internet. Like you got access to the internet as long as your little nation state has the internet. You're plugged into a global financial system, and you can start experimenting with different things, I guess. Which is probably the big idea, yeah.
I think it's just being able to create your own rules and regulations. That's a hard part.
Yeah.
Everybody can create a new society, but you still have to live by the Australian rules or wherever you are.
All right, watch your space. All right, so Alyse, if anyone is on Twitter, surely not Twitter, LinkedIn, they follow you everywhere. Every time I turn on LinkedIn, I can see at least somewhere if I'm not at the event with you. If people want to get in touch with you, or want people to get in touch with you, like LinkedIn's one I know, but what else do you do, and how can they find you?
Alyse Sue on X.
On X. Okay, there we go. Give that a plug. Pump it. All right, awesome. Well, thanks heaps for stopping by. This has been fascinating. Yeah, no, it's been a real pleasure, and I've learned a lot today. Transhumanism, that's amazing. I didn't realize it was actually about the technological aspect of enhancing human, and we're already on the way to doing this. It's not like a thing that's happening in the future. It's happening now. Yeah. It's just the technology is in the process of getting better.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
All right,
we're all transhumanists in the end.
We're all transhumanists. There we go. There's a quote we can leave on. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.